everybody. It's Dr. Cindy, your host of the Positively Altered podcast. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist, and this is all about everything that has anything to do with wellness, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, doesn't make a difference. We're going to talk to some great guests on this podcast. Today is absolutely no different. So I have an important question for all of you out there. Have you been affected by stress? I paused, but I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. What's interesting is there's only one T in that word, but we're going to talk about the three T's that have something to do with stress with our next guest. So don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break to listen to our sponsors who are very important to me. And then we're going to be right back with today's guest.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? Welcome back to the Positively Altered podcast. I'm glad you hung around. Today's guest is a friend and a super important individual because he is going to help us get to the bottom of stress with not just one T, but three T's. Welcome, Dr. Stacy Conrad.
Hello, Cindy. How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you today?
Very good.
I almost felt like a sports announcer there. You know, I was feeding into the, you've been working with a lot of sports teams, right? Indianapolis Colts and some hockey teams and a handful of others. I felt like yeah. Now I'm not an announcer because I can't say that in English. I felt like an announcer to bring you onto the show.
I appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to this. It's something I'm very passionate about, and I've dealt with that on a patient level for many years. Many of my patients and many of my friends tell me I should be a teacher, but I tell them I'm not a teacher. Even though as a doctor, that's one of the definitions is teacher. And I think far too many doctors really don't do any teaching of anything about health to their patients.
It's amazing, isn't it? We just, we go in, we do a technique and we collect a paycheck. And at the end of the day, what do we accomplish, right?
Right.
Yeah. So let's go into this whole concept of three T's. Tell me what that is and why it's so important.
Well, if we back up a little bit, I think when you're in chiropractic school, and everyone who goes to chiropractic school, I was a chiropractic patient from the age of 13 with sports injuries. And my chiropractor was a wonderful chiropractor. And he dealt with me really more on just the biomechanical end of getting adjusted all the time. And I think that was just really helpful for me in my sports practice, or my sports career rather, and then getting into to chiropractic. And he kind of led me into being a chiropractor. And then as you get into practice, you're adjusting people, but there's always people who fall through the cracks. And those are the people that always kind of drove me crazy. You know, I was really happy to adjust people, get them moving better, get them out of their pain, whatever their crisis was, and kind of help them to move better, essentially. But I always wondered why I had so many people just kind of fall through the cracks. So I dealt a lot with nutrition in the beginning. So the 3 T's are traumas, toxins, and thoughts. And the traumas part is micro trauma, which is your kind of everyday stress and strain, which is typically what you see with every patient. When they come in and they're all bent over, they can't move, their knee hurts, their shoulder hurts, their back hurts, whatever it is. And I'm like, what did you do to yourself? And they go, I didn't do anything. And so that's always to me a sign that it's their daily lifestyle that's causing their dysfunction. And then you have the other people that are macro traumas, which are the people who are in a car crash or have a sports injury or something significant that happened at that moment. And but we see way more of the micro traumas than we do the macro traumas. So dealing with nutrition, and for me, nutrition was always not so much what was in a bottle, but what was on your plate. Mm-hmm. And so many people eat, and today it's far worse than 40 years ago when I started practice, is there's just so much processed food and food that is just full of unhealthy things for us. The grocery store is just, to me, a kind of a poison store, and you really have to shop. It's kind of like our ancestors had to go out and hunt and gather for food, and there were things out there that were going to kill you. Well, it's no different now when you go in the grocery store. There's stuff in there that's going to give you a slow death and a miserable life, and you just have to avoid those things. So everything comes down to choice, but it's hard to make choices if you don't have the knowledge. And then probably in the last 15 years, I've gotten more into the thought basis of that and dealing with, especially since 2020. I don't like to use the C word because I think it was all kind of nonsense. But since 2020, everybody is just stressed out so badly. And I've started dabbling in a few techniques. It's a little bit from Best Technique, and it's a little bit from KST. And we basically find out if people are stuck in a sympathetic dominant pattern where their heart rate goes up, their blood pressure goes up, their digestion goes down, they're insomniacs. They can't sleep at night because who wants to take a nap if something's going to get you? You know, they're so stressed out. So you have to figure out a way to flip them back into parasympathetic dominance with the nervous system so they can rest, recover, and heal. And I found a lot of patients that they're not responding to adjusting. They're not responding to better nutrition. And then when we get into the neuroemotional releases, all of a sudden it's like something is like totally released on them. So I've gotten to where I deal with all of those realms, and that, you know, I'm guided by what that patient presents with. So people present sometimes with all 3 of those, and sometimes it's just, you know, 1 of those or 2 or whatever. But for the most part in today's world, we're dealing with all 3 of those 3 T's.
Yeah, you know, I think it's really easy if you're in pain to walk into a physician's office, a chiropractor's office, and go, this hurts. And I also think it's really easy, although some people don't like to admit it, that they eat like crap, right? You know, when you start diving through, I think those are pretty.
However, they always say, I eat really good.
They do.
Ask them about their diet. How's your diet? Oh, I eat really well. That's the standard answer.
I know. And, you know, it's funny when I run around teaching, I always tell people, stop trusting your patients. You have to ask them what they're putting in their mouth, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what did you put in your mouth from the minute you woke up to the minute you went to bed? What did you eat? Yeah. What did you drink? Did you chew gum? Right? Are you chomping on the back of a pencil? You know, probably there's all kinds of things we're exposed to.
You all day.
Right? Yeah. Right? So I agree. Yeah. People, and really, it's not really their fault because, to your point, they're not educated. They don't know what's healthy or not, right? So when patients think they're walking through and, you know, they stop at McDonald's and get the chicken sandwich, okay, probably not still a healthy choice, right? But we have to teach that.
Yeah.
And I want to come back to the nutrition with you because I know you're really passionate about it, but I think the scary part of the 3 T's is actually the thoughts. Right. So like when I hear you say this, okay, now you've got some techniques. Now, the first thing I think people are probably going, oh, I can't walk into an office and start being psychoanalyzed. Right. There's this whole, I think, sort of negative mantra of like, we need therapy, right, in order to address our thoughts. So can you dive in a little bit more of like when somebody walks into your office, how do you make them comfortable enough to address that particular T to where they feel that there's no judgment and there can be an openness to express those concerns?
Right. That's a great question. the beauty of that is the techniques I use, they don't really have to tell me anything that's going on with them. I just tell them to think about it. Just think about something stressful in your life. And then a lot of it is just through muscle testing. And it took me a while to kind of wrap my brain around how to do some of those because I was thinking, while I'm evaluating them, I'm thinking, and I just need to quit thinking and evaluate them and just deal with what I find. And so a lot of it is, if you just do a simple muscle test on a patient and have them say the word yes, and then muscle test them, they should be strong in that muscle test. If they say, and then I ask them to say no, and I just have them say that out loud. If they say no and they go weak, that's a normal response physiologically, right? But if they're strong in a no, then we know that there's a lock somewhere. And then I usually have them say their name and then a fake name or something, and it'll be the same thing. So we know there's a neuro-emotional lock. If they're staying strong in that, it's almost like a sympathetic dominant response of they're in fight mode. And so then, if that's the case, then I go to the part I learned about the KST, and that's just kind of figuring out where their lock is from an emotional concept. And then with if it's a simple muscle test thing, we go through some basic emotions of fear, anger, love, sadness, enjoyment, and judgment. And we'll usually find that they're weaker in one of those emotions. So we know that something happened to them in their life. And sometimes it goes back 20 years, 40 years, yesterday. It could be anything. But there's an event that happened that really gets them stuck. So I always give the example of, it's like, let's say you've got a 3-year-old child and little Johnny is running around the kitchen and he finds a box of crayons, and mom's in the laundry room doing laundry, and he grabs these crayons and he's happy and creative, and he comes in and he draws this huge picture on the wall, right? And then mom comes in and what happens? The hammer comes down. And so little Johnny has 2 ways to respond to that. He can be like, okay, I won't do that again. And it's over, right? But the other response is, oh my gosh, I got in trouble. Oh my gosh, I got in trouble. Oh my gosh, I was happy and creative and I got in trouble. And it's just like a replay loop in their brain, right? So they sort of grow up with this concept of, I'm happy and creative, but they're looking over their shoulder because it's like, well, I can't be happy and creative because I'm going to get in trouble for that. And that's where things just start to tailspin on them. And then a lot of them have, multiple complications like that, especially if they're the worrier. Because who's always sicker, the worrywart or the really happy person,
Right.
And we all have stress. We have to learn how to deal with choice. And I researched this for a talk a few years ago, and I didn't realize that the average person makes about 35,000 choices per day.
Wow.
And I thought it would be 2,000 or 3,000 when I was going to research that. And I was blown away so the next day I'm driving to work and I'm like, okay, how am I making that many choices a day? Well, driving my car, it's like you're constantly adjusting the wheel, hitting the brake, hitting the gas, looking in the mirror. I mean, you're in perpetual mode of choice all the time. And we just don't realize how important a lot of those choices are, and how important our body is just going to respond to thinking. Just like if you go to a scary movie, and it's just a movie, right? But you're sitting there sweating bullets and you're clutching the person next to you, and your body is responding as if that is real. But it's not real, right? So at least in today's world, I used to believe that. Today's world, I believe a lot of those movies are actually more truthful than people know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm laughing to myself because I actually have a piece of my drywall that I've saved in which my son drew a Ninja Warrior on. And I was so it was such a cool little picture that, and he really didn't get in trouble. Actually, he didn't even own it. I'm like, who drew? Now
your boys are Ninja Warriors too.
Right? I'm like, who drew the Ninja Warrior on the wall? And they're both like, not me. I didn't do it. And listen, we rode bikes and skateboards in the house. I'm a pretty lax mom, so they weren't going to get in trouble for it. I was more interested in who drew it. Nobody would own it, Stacy. And then and I kept it. When I repainted the house, I had them cut out the drywall. So I kept it. A couple of years later, I found a picture that one of them had drawn, with their name on it. And it was that exact Ninja Warrior. And I'm like, you're guilty. I totally got you. Yeah. In a court of law, they would have been fried for sure.
Here's a tip for you.
Yeah.
Moms and dads, learn how to muscle test your kids just on a basic level. and have them learn that yes is going to be a strong response. No is going to be a negative response. And then you could have muscle tested each of your boys and said, which one did you draw on this? And then have them say, I did not draw on this. If that's a truthful statement, they'll stay strong.
Oh my gosh. So it's really a lie detector test.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I've used that on family members before, and they fess up, and I said, come here, I'm going to muscle test you. And they just cave immediately.
That's great. Now my kids are definitely older, but I think I might bring that in anyway.
It'll still work.
You know what? You know what? We're going to do that at the holidays. We're going to, sit around the dinner table and muscle test everybody and see if we can bring out some good truths. Cause, I'm a big fan of that. Like in my house, you always got in way less trouble, if any, if you always owned your shit, right?
Yeah.
You just tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
But when you lie to me, that's when mom got pissed.
I used that little test. Howard Mudd, who was a great offensive line coach, he has since passed. But I was talking with Howard Mudd one day about that with the Colts, and he was fascinated by how that affected your physiology just from a thought basis. So he wanted to learn a lot of those little tips, and he wanted to teach them to the offensive linemen in the offensive lineman coaches room, the little separate coaching room that they have.
Yep.
And he wanted to teach them that so that if they had a penalty or got beat on a play or whatever, he wanted them to let that go immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they kind of go back into the next play thinking about the mistake they made, it's actually going to make them weaker going into that next play.
Yeah.
I thought that was incredible that he just wanted to pick that up and use that as a coaching tip.
It's so important, and as you know, right? Like I have two boys and they're wrestlers. My youngest is now a senior in high school. And, he's a good wrestler. He's not, he's not number one in the country, but he's a good wrestler. He holds his own. And we have these conversations all the time, right? Because he's going to be in a tournament this Saturday where he could actually wind up going against the number 2 kid in the nation. Right. And I go, oh my God, that's going to be such a great learning experience. He goes, I'm going to get my ass handed to me. And I'm like, stop saying that. Right. Like, no, it's going to be a great experience.
Yeah.
Win or lose, it's irrelevant. Right. But he's already got in his mind that he's going to get pummeled. And I'm like, let's at least have fun when we get pummeled. Right. Like, we got to find some joy in this.
Everybody can be beat,
Absolutely. And everybody can lose.
Right.
Yeah. And we've got some great stories in the wrestling space of, kids who go undefeated and then they're in the championship match. And you know what? No longer undefeated. Right. So everybody can win and everybody can lose. It's very fascinating. Right. So you know what? I think people, it's so interesting to me, this whole world of sports and entertainment. I think people are so fascinated by famous people. I'm honestly not quite sure why, but I'd love to dive into that a little bit, right? Because they're just different versions of us, right?
False
in
idols.
Terms of the 3 T's. Yes.
Yeah, it's false idols.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're just human bodies that we need to take care of the same way. Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, all your years in professional sports, did you treat them any differently than you would a patient that walked through the door?
They're all regular people, just gifted athletically.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think they deal with the same stressors we do. It's just that there's this facade of that their life is so much better. And I'm not really sure why we elevate them that way.
Well, I always bring the sports analogy into health because if you ever talk to an athlete and you ever ask them, have you ever played the perfect game? No matter what the sport is, have you played the perfect game? And they go, no, never. And I go, well, is that your mission or is that your goal to play the perfect game? And they go, yeah, but it's not really obtainable. And I wish people would look like that toward their health, because health is not there. You're not really healthy. You're just not sick. Right. And so the definition of health is all systems and organs in the body working at optimal levels. So your quest should be to get healthier all the time and continue to make better choices to enhance your level of health. So you don't have to worry about all these crisis events that are going to happen in life. Are crisis events going to happen? Absolutely. You never know when you're going to get in a car crash, or you never know when you're going to come down with something like you have dealt with in your life. There are things that are just going to happen. Right.
Right.
But there's a lot of times there's something that led up to that happening. And nobody really thinks about that. Nobody thinks about, well, what did I do to set my body up to do that? And it might not have been you. It might have been something your parents did. It might have been something your grandparents did. You just don't know. Right.
Right. Right.
But you can always overcome those things. And we just need to be mindful that we could all be healthier if we just worked at it a little bit. And that's what athletes do, is they they work on things they're good at, but they also work on things they're not so good at. And that's what makes them a better athlete. And it's, it's their body and their mind. And, most athletes at a high level all are physically gifted, but not are all mentally tough. And so the ones that are just super focused and super mentally tough, they generally are they're the cream of the crop. They're the top of the line.
And yet they're misinformed too. I mean, I remember a long time ago, I had a patient who's since moved away, who was one of the pitching coaches for the Chicago White Sox. And he would tell me stories how these guys would walk into training camp with their bags of Taco Bell, like 30 pounds overweight from the off season. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I was the owner paying them millions of dollars, like no, right? Like, right. No way. So even with the access that these athletes have, the money that they have, right? The training that they have, they're still making, just like the rest of us, right? Some poor choices with the lack of education. It's very interesting, and you'd think at that high level that wouldn't exist, but it really does.
Conditioning coaches, I remember John Torring, who was a longtime strength coach with the Colts, told me once, he said it takes the average player 3 years in the league to figure out they have to eat better and take better care of themselves to stay in the league, or they're going to be gone. And you just see that happen all the time.
It's amazing, right? And everybody picked on Tom Brady, right? And his lifestyle and his choices.
Right.
And like him or not, I mean, the longevity that man has had in the industry is pretty unbelievable.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And he takes good care of the body.
Yep, sure does.
He really does. So you know what? I want to dive into some of the crap that's out there that people are believing, right? One of the fun things I think about learning from you is that you poke holes in a lot of the stuff that's being promoted, because we're being educated. Yeah, well, we're not being educated correctly, right? So are there some favorites out there that you've seen, in social media, TikTok or whatever, that just make your skin crawl? That you just want to like shake people and go, don't listen, this isn't correct?
Well, from a visual perspective, wearing a mask.
Okay.
Wearing a mask is, I just shake my head.
Okay.
I all through 2020, I never wore a mask. Maybe a handful of times going into a store where I really needed something in that store. And so I'd come in and they'd chase you down and, you gotta cover your face. I'm like, so I roll my eyes, and I put something over my face and walk around the corner and take it back off. And I worked in my practice every day, didn't wear a mask. In fact, my stance on that, I don't want to say anything here to get you in trouble, but my stance on that was don't wear a mask, don't get tested, and definitely don't take any shots. That was my stance to all my patients.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still stand behind that and I think that's pretty much been validated.
Yeah. It's very interesting when patients, and we stayed open. We didn't shutter our doors. Listen, if you want to walk in, wearing the Bozo the Clown outfit, you're welcome to come into the practice, right? So no judgment for people that made choices, but we also chose to follow that same path. But it was very interesting because if a patient said to me, when should I get the vaccine? That was a question, not do I, but when do I? And I said, well, we're going to wait at least 10 to 20 years because there's zero research. We have no idea the effects, and we're basically now a human science experiment. And if we find in 10 or 20 years that the science backs that it's the right decision, then by all means make the right decision. But if it doesn't back it, I don't want you to become part of the experiment while we learn and figure that out. And unfortunately, we're not even at the 10-year mark, right? So we're learning a lot of things, sadly, that were very incorrect. Yeah. And I think there were a lot of us that were sort of preaching the right mantra, but unfortunately, we didn't hold the positions on national TV and media to. Well,
and everything, and everybody that did talk or say what we're saying was silenced.
Yes.
When has that ever happened?
Yeah. And when should it, right? Never.
Exactly.
It never should happen. Yeah. It's interesting.
We can talk a lot about that, but I don't know.
We can.
I don't know how deep you want to go in all this kind of stuff.
Well, again, no filter. So we can go wherever you want to go, Stacy. This is everybody's opinion, like it, love it, or leave it. I don't care. Yeah. That's what this is all about, is the freedom of speech it is interesting. This has really, truly been one of my mantras in my entire practice. And that is, I don't care what you do. And that sounds really cold and uncaring, but I always back that up with, it is your choice in your life. I care that you're educated correctly so that you make a decision. It's not my job to make the decisions for you, right? It's my body, my choice, my family. I live in my little bubble. We do the things that we feel right about. But when people are making choices, whether it's food or vaccines or anything else with misinformation, that's what gets under my skin, because now they're not making an informed choice
Right.
to be able to stand up and say, I support what I picked.
Right.
And that's what I love to promote. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And we see it a lot.
I followed a lot of people on social media, a lot of vaccine makers and a lot of different people from really all over the world. And a lot of them said there's just no way possible that they could have physically manufactured that many vaccines in that short of a period of time. So my belief is all this stuff was kind of pre-planned, and they created 2020 to get that injection in people. So the injection was there before 2020.
Yeah, we know the virus has been around for a long time. And let's face it, there's been multiple viruses around for a long time, and they do mutate and morph, and some by man and some by nature. And, it's very interesting. I just got myself involved in an international organization for really chiropractic and the effects that it has on long COVID and all the symptoms that we have as a result of the spike protein. We've got some exciting research, good little teaser here, but we've got some exciting research coming out on how chiropractic care will actually facilitate changes in the immune system in the body, which you and I have known for decades. In order to help all of these patients that were so adversely affected now by both the vaccine and the virus.
Right.
And I don't know, did you walk through COVID? Were you one of the lucky ones that?
I got really sick January of 2020.
Okay.
For a week, I just had real high fever and just felt pretty miserable. Went from the bed to the sofa and did that for about 5 days. And that was really all I had, was really high fever, and just felt like somebody ran over me.
Okay.
And then a month later, or two, we're at our PFCS conference in Indy, and that's about when it came out, and people just kind of started panicking. But I'm like, well, I already had that. And then I got a little bit sick in November that year, but very mild. And then I haven't been sick since then. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. It put me down for 13 days. And you can walk in my office with a fever, vomiting, diarrhea, and I don't pick anything up. Yeah. It put me down for 13 days, and I had really bad headaches, like excruciating headaches and some bone pain. Yep. And fever. And I took everything off my shelf that I knew what to use for a virus, and I pounded that and got myself through it. And, wasn't fun, but here to tell the story. Right. And
flu's never fun.
No, but we get through it, right, with a good immune system.
Yeah. I've always dealt with the flu in my practice. Like, patients will call and say, well, I feel kind of sick. And this goes back, 30 years. Well, I feel kind of sick today. I don't think I should come in. And I go, well, you should absolutely come in, because it'll stimulate your immune system and you'll feel better faster. And I said, I just have 2 questions for you. Are you having any vomiting or any diarrhea? Because if you have those, I just stay home, right? Nobody wants to be out if you're dealing with those. So that's always been my stance. If you don't feel good, that's the best time to get adjusted.
Right. You just convert the visit into a different reason. That's all. Right. Yeah. Don't cancel. Come on in.
And those patients will all come back later and say, I really did feel a whole lot better, a lot faster after getting that adjustment.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
And when they do get sick, I would always ask the patient come in and say, I was really sick last week. I had the flu or something. And I said, well, how'd you get the flu? And they go, well, my kids gave it to me, or my coworker gave it to me, or whatever. And I go, really? I said, have you ever been around somebody that had the flu and you didn't get the flu? And they go, well, yeah. And I go, well, how'd that happen? Somebody gave it to you. How'd you get around to somebody that had it and you didn't get it? And it's kind of, the response is usually interesting, because I just shut up and I just look at them, and they never really have an answer, and some of them will fumble around and eventually say, well, I guess my immune system was weakened. And that's where I want them to think, that's exactly what happened. Because in sick season, what happens? It starts colder weather. We have less sunshine. Mm-hmm. Thanksgiving hits, you start eating and gorging on stuff you normally don't eat. You start drinking stuff you normally don't drink a lot of. You probably stay up late with family. You're traveling. So you're doing all these things that weaken the immune system. And that's what gets people in the position to be sick in the first place. So again, it's back to choice, do that, but kind of control it and keep it in moderation, and realize you gotta catch up on a few things or you're going to get sick.
Right. So it's really about taking care of yourself before it happens. I tell people, you don't wake up one day with cancer. You don't wake up one day with diabetes. You don't wake up one day with a poor immune system. It's time,
Right.
right? It's things that we do over a period of time. So why would we wait for the symptoms to catch up to us where we now have a label instead of doing some of the good work, including chiropractic and nutrition, so that we never, right, have
Right.
to say
Absolutely.
we wound up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think people are so afraid of chiropractic medicine? The people out there that,
Because
won't
of,
walk in or hear bad stories. Where's the fear?
because of the lies. I
Yeah.
mean, it's all lies. It goes back to the, oh my gosh, what's, 1976, oh, Chester Wilk
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Chester Wilk trial. Probably most chiropractors out there practicing today don't even know who Chester Wilk was. But the Chester Wilk trial, and he kind of went to bat for chiropractic in the Chicago area with several other chiropractors, and they fought the AMA and they won. That the AMA was trying to collude and crush chiropractic, which they've done to almost every other healthcare profession, by the way.
Right.
They want to monopolize things, and sadly the pharmaceutical industry has really corrupted medicine. I think a lot of good young people that want to be doctors and want to go into medicine are really kind of taken over, and a lot of them, like Casey Means coming out right now, and she's sort of realizing that, wow, we've kind of been duped, and all that was done by the pharmaceutical industry going way back to the Rockefellers in the early 1900s. You familiar with that?
Yeah. It's so sad how we took the doctor of back in the day with the black bag and all the remedies, right? And the remedies are gone and the drugs are here.
Yeah.
We had, my boyfriend had a little bit of a scare and wound up in the hospital and was in a cardiac unit, and thank goodness he's okay. But when he came out of the procedure, the nurse walked in because he was hungry and handed him a bag of potato chips and offered him a pop.
Yeah.
And I said, did you seriously just offer him a pop? Like, we're in the cardiac unit. And she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. We have diet pop too. And I mean, I wanted to strangle this poor woman. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go down to the cafeteria and see what I can find that looks like chicken and some water. And I'm going to be right back, and fed him something that looked like food to me.
Right.
The whole industry, I think, is so turned upside down with the way we take care of people. And yet, if you look at the doctor, right, the MD back hundreds of years ago, that was way more similar to the way we practice. We got so far away from true medicine.
Right.
That we just got lost. We got lost.
Well, statistically, America makes up about 4 to 5% of the world's population, and Americans consume about 65% of the world's manufactured pharmaceuticals. So if the pharmaceuticals were the answer to health, we should be the healthiest society on the planet.
And we're not.
We're not by a long shot. And
we're not.
The average 65-year-old is on 12.9 pharmaceuticals. That was as of about 8 years ago. I'm sure that's gone up since.
It's a crazy number. And I always joke, nobody is born with an antidepressant deficiency.
No.
Right? All of these chemicals, it's not how we're made up.
Right.
Yeah. So how do we fix this?
Well, that's a deep rabbit hole. But it's correctable. I think it's starting to correct now. But people have to pull their head out of the sand and realize that things have not been good, and we've been lied to in many ways. I had a gentleman come to me over 30 years ago as a patient. He was probably my age now at that time, and we were just talking about crazy things in the early 90s about what was going on in the world. And he goes, well, we're all living the lie, right? And I said, I just looked at him and I'm like, what do you mean by that? And he goes, oh, you'll figure it out. That's all he said. And it took me until I was 60. I just turned 68. And when I turned 60, it all became very clear to me, like really what's going on. And it's not something you can tell somebody. It's something people got to figure out, because if somebody tried to tell me what I figured out at the age of 60, I wouldn't believe them.
Right. It's our own journey.
Yeah.
what I would love to inspire people to do is just to question everything. I laugh. Patients will come into the office and they'll be like afraid to tell me that they asked somebody else a question or they want to bring me an article, right? Or question what I'm doing. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, that's so important. Like, please don't trust everything I tell you that comes out of my mouth. I mean, I'm smart and I know what I'm doing, but you absolutely need to question what I'm presenting to you, right? And then if you're comfortable, then we move forward. And if you're not, then we don't, right? But when people come in and just take everything somebody says at face value, I think that's where we really get into trouble, right? So everybody out there listening, question everything, right? Ask and make sure that it makes sense. Good, logical. I think we lost logic, Stacy, in this country.
Well, they've been conditioned to not do that.
Yeah. We have to change that.
We've all been conditioned.
Yeah.
All conditioning.
Yeah, no, question everything. We got to turn back to our childhood, right? I was just talking to a previous guest, and he said, as children, we always ask why. Why did we stop asking why?
Yeah, stranger danger.
Yeah,
stranger danger, right? Remember when that what was that 25, 30 years ago? It's like stranger danger. Don't talk to anybody. Stay in your box. Don't get out of the box. Yeah, it's all purposeful. Sadly.
I got a pretty interesting box, Stacy.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm pretty happy in my little box that's odd and whatnot. Oh, so what's next for you? So you're in private practice, right? You've been with a lot of professional teams. What's still on your list of things to accomplish in chiropractic?
I just want to relax now. I took a year off in 2008. My body was beat up. I was my wrists hurt, my elbows hurt. I had just been work. I was in private practice. We had a big practice in Carmel, Indiana, and I had young doctors working for me and a lot of staff, and I just started realizing I was just working to pay a lot of other people, and I was killing my body in the process. That was the last year I worked with the Colts, and I just took a year off, and it took me 4 months of just resting and doing nothing to actually start to feel good again, and I had a patient that I kind of divvied up all my practice to all the docs that were working for me at the time. And I had a lady kind of start crying and, I hate to see you leave, Dr. Conrad. And she goes, what are you going to do with all your free time? And it stumped me. I was like, I don't know. So that really kind of scared me because I thought I really don't have a life outside of just working all the time. I wasn't married. I was, I have a beautiful wife now. We do all kinds of stuff together. We have fun together. I only work about 12 or 14 hours a week now.
Great.
I'm booked out, several weeks on my schedule. And so I don't really have to, I kind of have to say no more than yes, which is what I used to do. But you just got to learn to take care of yourself and enjoy life. I realize that I'm pushing 70 now and nobody knows how many days you have left, I want to enjoy the rest of it.
It's very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. So I don't know about you, but I'm an avid reader. I think there's a book that you absolutely love that I would love to talk about. And it's called Your Health, Your Choice by M.T. Morter. Mm-hmm. Before we take our last commercial break, what's a good lesson from that book that we should take from that maybe we can all move forward with?
The title says it all. The title says it all. Your Health, Your Choice. And I was at a point in my life there where I was eating, fast food and drinking soda and drinking other stuff, way too much. And then your body, you just start to feel it, you start to get a little older and you're like, wow, it's hard to do that, and I ran across Dr. Morter at a seminar I was at, and he was talking about food combining and pH of the body and alkalization of the body and acidity of the body. And it was just fascinating to me what he was, because I'd never really heard that before.
Okay.
And then the food combining, I think, goes back into maybe the 1930s or something. So I really kind of put that in practice for myself. And a lot of the things that he taught, I didn't believe. I was like, well, I don't believe that, but I applied it and it worked. And so I was kind of blown away by that. And I practiced that model really strictly for 2 or 3 years. And it's probably the best I've ever felt in my life. It's really difficult to follow, because we just have an abundance of choices in America. And there's just so many things to eat and drink that just aren't good for us. And then we kind of just gorge ourselves with everything instead instead of thinking of if we were in nature and we had to go out and find food, you're not going to find something to eat and tuck it under your arm and say, okay, now I'm going to go look for something else to eat. You're not going to go find 5 or 6 or 10 things to eat. You're going to eat that one thing. And so our body by design is kind of designed to take in kind of one food element at a time. Mm-hmm. So, you find a berry bush, you eat a bunch of berries. And if you're lucky to maybe get a rabbit or whatever, you're going to eat rabbit, So it made a lot of sense to me, and it really did make a difference. That's a great book. It's an old book. It's probably a bit outdated because it was written, I think, in 88 initially. And I read it. It was probably 89 or 90 when I got into that book. But, in today's world, he didn't talk about GMOs, which most patients don't even know what GMO means. I'm like, do you eat any GMO foods? And they go, well, what's that? So the genetic modified organisms, which are all designed to be resistant to pesticides and herbicides. So the plant will grow, but nothing else will. It'll kill everything else, right? And so we've gone to this corporate food model that's just full of toxins. And so that book's just a little bit outdated from that perspective, because he's not going to talk about the pesticides and the herbicides and the GMOs and all the other crap that's out there nowadays. But it's a good start.
I love it. And I think both of you have said it perfectly. There really is choice. Yeah. Right. At the end of the day, there is choice, and we can make better ones, no matter how much is out there. You
can always change your choices.
That's true. You're never stuck unless you want to be, Stacy.
Yeah. I don't do fast food anymore. I don't drink soda pop at all anymore. I don't drink alcohol very often anymore. I still like a glass of wine, or something once in a while, or just cold beer on a hot summer day. But it's just about, moderation of good things. And it's what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, how you exercise, how you rest, and how you think. So if you can break your lifestyle down into those 6 categories, it's a little easier to kind of get a hold of what you're doing, because a lot of people just don't know where to start. It's overwhelming. Right.
It is overwhelming.
When we talk about a lot of these things to patients, they're completely overwhelmed. And I understand that, but you just have to start get them back to some sort of basics. I love this thing. I use a whiteboard a lot in my practice.
Okay.
And I have this saying on there that says, you're unconsciously incompetent. I want you to be consciously incompetent. And then eventually you will be consciously competent. And then your new habits will make you unconsciously competent. So,
oh my God, I love that.
You kind of have to take them through those levels. They're doing so many bad things, they just don't know it. And you want them to at least become aware, have an awareness that their choices aren't so good. And then they make better choices, and they have to think about it. So they're competent, but they have to think about it. And then eventually they just create a whole new habit pattern.
Oh my gosh, I love that. With your permission, I'm going to steal that, because I think
I stole it. I stole it.
Did you?
I'm not this smart guy that comes up with all this stuff. I've been blessed to be around so many good doctors of all kinds of doctors. And I try to learn. My mission was to always go to a conference and bring 3 new things home from that conference that I could use Monday morning.
Yes.
That was always my mission.
Yes.
It didn't always happen. Sometimes I brought a lot more than 3 things home, but I wanted to learn something and come home and apply it. And,
oh my gosh. See, you're more ambitious than I am. When I teach, I tell everybody that if you've learned one thing, I've done my job. And if you haven't, you better ask me a question to learn that one.
I've learned a lot from you, but you blow my mind, because when you're up there, it's rapid fire. I feel like I'm trying to drink from a water or from a fire hose, when you're talking.
I know. I've learned over the years to slow down a little bit. I just have so much I want to share with people that I want to get it all in. And nobody will let me stay up on the stage long enough. There's always an end. So I get the hook when it's time to go.
Yeah, I understand.
So I'm getting older, Stacy. I'm slowing down. I'm taking breaths.
Well, I understand that.
Some of my senses. Yeah, absolutely. All right. I love this. Here's what we're going to do. If you're going to hang tight with me for a little bit, we're going to take a quick break. And then I want to come back. We're going to do some fun rapid fire questions just to see what your answers are and entertain some folks out there. And then we'll wrap it up for today. You going to hang tight with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Dr. Stacy Conrad, we will be right back. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. stop. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. Welcome back. I'm glad you stuck around through the break. We are with Dr. Stacy Conrad, my friend, a chiropractor from Indiana extraordinaire. And we are going to have a little bit of fun right now, Stacy. Some rapid fire questions. No prep work on this. You ready?
I guess. We'll see.
All right, we'll see. And just so you know, it's never rapid because I always have qualifying questions, but I'm going to ask them anyway. So number one, if you were ruler of the universe, who would you trust to drive your chariot?
Well, I don't put my trust in man, so I'd let Jesus have the wheel.
Nice. Oh, there's a song I think that says something like that. Awesome. Yep. All right, I'm going to catch a ride with you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Because I'm not so sure I have there's some bad drivers out there.
Oh, there sure is.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. If you had to change your name like we require people to change their password, what would you change your name to?
I would not change my name at all.
Really?
No. I've been teased most of my life of having a girl's name, and I've always loved my name. So
have you?
Yeah, sure have.
Even when you were little?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was the only Stacy.
Okay.
And I knew a lot of girls named Stacy, but I didn't know any boys named Stacy. I've met a few over my lifetime, some other men by that name, but I always loved my name.
So did you ever ask your parents, why Stacy?
Yeah, my mom, my brother, who's 2 years older, we were born when my dad was in the Army. And I think the story goes something like the neighbor down the street had a boy named Stacy or something like that. So I got named after a neighbor kid.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Exciting.
What is? I'm thinking of the Johnny Cash, a boy named Sue, right? The song "A Boy Named Sue." So it's just it's a chiropractor named Stacy. We just have the.
I never got picked on though for my name. I don't know. Nobody ever really picked on me for it. So.
Listen, you know what? Kids are mean. They find something to pick on, whether it's your name or something else. So we're all victims at one point.
I was always an athlete, so maybe they were intimidated. I don't know.
See, that's good. You had that going for you for sure. Oh my gosh, great. All right. So if you could domesticate any animal on this planet to make it your personal pet, what would you pick?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a great question. Probably a lion.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
King of the beast.
Yeah. And does it have to go into the cage and sleep at the foot of the bed or?
No, sleep on the bed with me.
It would.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I wouldn't break into your house if that was the case. Yeah. That would be a good protector for sure. What food should be a breakfast food that is not?
Broccoli.
Yeah.
Steamed broccoli.
So you want to start with some early morning gas.
Steamed broccoli, never given me gas. Steamed, now if you put the cheese on it and all the other crap, maybe so, but you just do steamed broccoli. My digestive system handles that well. I also love celery.
Okay.
So anytime I'm not feeling up to par and I get up and I want to eat steamed broccoli or celery for breakfast.
Interesting. Now that's like the new fad is celery juice. That's been a thing lately.
That's been a thing for a long time, I think.
Yeah. Do you buy into that? Is there value to that?
I'm not into juicing because I feel like I'm wasting most of the food. I want to eat everything. So.
Okay. All right. So steamed right now, are you a seasoned kind of guy? Do you salt, a little paprika, red pepper, or just straight?
Yeah, a little bit. My wife's more the seasoner, and the stuff she makes is phenomenal. So it's, but I just like raw vegetable. I like to go pick something out of the garden.
Nice.
We got a lot of gardens here. We bought it. We moved out in the country a few years ago, and 2014 we kind of saw craziness coming, and we said it's time to get out. And so we bought 20 acres of kind of woods and out in the country, and we live out in the country, and I can't wait to come home every day.
Oh, isn't that awesome?
To a park.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I just love raw vegetables. I love meat too. And I'm addicted to sugars and grains, which anytime I don't feel good, I know I got to cut out dairy and grain. If I cut those out of my life, I get well really quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's amazing.
I'm big on vegetables. 80% of your diet, I think, should be vegetation.
Love it.
Average American's about 10%. So
yeah, I love it. My middle one, Ari, would come home from football practice when he was 7 or 8 years old, and for a snack, ask for a bowl of broccoli.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. There aren't too many kids that do that, so pretty fun. All right, what is your favorite body part and why?
Well, for me or on somebody else?
I don't know. How about both?
Wow, I don't know. My favorite body part. I don't know, legs, I guess.
Okay. Whether
Legs.
it's you or somebody else?
Yeah, for me, I used to have big, strong legs, and it's just kind of wasting away, and I'm like really sad about that.
Oh. Well, there's still some work that can be done to bring that back, don't you think?
There definitely is, yes.
All right. See, you never have to settle. You know what's amazing is for all the chiropractors that I have had on the podcast, nobody has ever said spine.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be our favorite, I suppose, to facilitate change, but
yeah. As a chiropractor, though, I look more at things like the brain and nervous system.
Yeah.
Not so much the spine, because the spine is just a mechanical lever that you're going to use to introduce change into the nervous system.
Yes.
So to me, it's more about neurology than it is, skeletal issues.
Yeah, we have had the answer brain a couple times, but never spine. So, maybe there's some logic behind that. And lastly, Dr. Stacy Conrad, what was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
Probably the first time I've done one, and it's been great. It's been.
I love that.
Great. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You're a great host.
Well, thank you. So this was your virgin podcast. I'm proud to have been doing this with you. Yeah. This is great.
Yeah.
And I hope it'll inspire you to do more.
Yeah, it's something I've kind of wanted to do. I've thought about doing for a long time, but it's just kind of not me. So for me to kind of get a nudge, I was really quite terrified and thrilled at the same time when I got your message that you wanted to have me on. And because I'm kind of a behind the scenes kind of person when I have my game face on in practice, and to me it's like game day on a sporting event. It's game day, right? And so I can really get focused and really, deal with patients and go all at it. But then when I'm done with that, I just kind of want to stay behind the scenes.
All right. Well, we won't keep you in front of the scenes too much longer, but for people who want to find you or your practice, how do we get in touch with you? How do we know what's going on in your world?
Premier Sports Chiropractic or premiersportschiro.com is my website. But I'm, should I give a phone? I don't want to give phone numbers.
We can Google you and find you.
Yeah. premiersportschiro.com is my website.
Right. Fair enough.
I'm going to modify that shortly because I'm probably, I'm slowly kind of just slowing down in practice. So.
Well, you know what? That's going to give you way more time for podcasts.
Yeah. Contact me, come visit. We got a guest house. You're welcome to come anytime. We got a guest house, hang out in the woods. It's peaceful. Get away from the city. You don't need to be in the city anymore.
I love it. Stacy, my word for 2025 is quiet. So I just might take you up on that,
Yeah, I have a few guys that come here before the PFCS thing. They come in a day or two early and they come out and we just hang out for a couple of days.
Sounds awesome. I absolutely love it. Yeah. Well, I will tell everybody out there, if you want to learn more about me, check us out at drsindyspeaks.com or shoot us an email. We'd love to hear from you at hello@drsindyspeaks. And please pick up the book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. I will tell you, Dr. Stacy Conrad, that my favorite thing about this podcast was just catching up because I haven't seen you for a couple of years at the Professional Football Chiropractic Society and hope to make it back to Indy really soon. I would love to come back. And I just appreciate your honesty, your transparency, and let's ask questions. Let's get it right. And let's just stop all the lies. So thank you today for your time. And
my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Everybody just think more about your choices.
I love it. So think about your choices, and hopefully our conversation today has left all of you positively altered.